My boyfriend is being creeped on by his ex's mom. He won't tell her no. My boyfriend and I have been dating for over a year. 3 months in, his mom was diagnosed with terminal cancer. He had to move home several states away. I moved out for 3 months at his request. His mom and I got along amazingly, she even left family jewelry to me in her will. He told me about his friend who'd had a crush on him in high school, which was fine. He also told me that he'd stayed at her apartment for a night when he'd gotten there, also fine. But things got weird when I met her mom. We went over to hers for dinner, and she and her mom only talked about how close he was to them. They told me that when he'd gone over to her house, he'd get into his undies so her mom could do his laundry, and that she did his hair. They have a special nickname for him and teased me for not using it. The daughter even went upstairs to change into the same outfit I was wearing. The mom was even more possessive. For months now, she's iced me out over and over. I didn't hear from him for 2 days and later found out she'd taken him on a trip to New York. When he moved back, the mom flew in to help and asked him to stay in her hotel room for the night, when he could have stayed at mine. I asked 1 bed or 2? He said my suggestion was gross. She's like a mom to him. She keeps crossing boundaries, she takes sips of his drink at dinner. When I take a bite of his food, she immediately asks him to give her a bite. This summer, they insisted that they all take a vacation together and I wasn't invited. A few days ago his mother passed away. He decided to stay in his condo alone for the night. Her mom flew in at 1 a.m. and went straight to his condo. There's no couch and it's a 1-bedroom. She slept in his bed for 2 days. I was shocked, but I didn't say anything. This is not the time. He can barely talk and is processing his grief. But I was so appalled and insulted. She also told me not to come over to check on him. She even asked me to drive her around and run errands for her. I ignored that and went over. Every time I tried to get close to him, cuddle in his bed, sit next to him, she took my place or made him move. Then she got ice cream on her shirt, and she took it off in the living room. As I was laying next to him, she hovered over us. His uncle and grandparents seemed to have an issue with her too. He told me that she and his family were fighting over him. He never stops her from crossing the line. He needs to solve that, or I need to eventually walk away because I can't feel like an intruder in my own partnership forever. My wedding is less than a week away. My guy best friend just admitted to being in love with me. That night my fiancé got home from his brother's house. I let him sit down and then I showed him the text. He read it and I watched his eyes get bigger and expression angrier. Of course, I started apologizing like an idiot who messed up. He realized we had an affair and instantly went silent. There was a lot of anger behind his silence. He asked me if I agreed to sleep with him that night. That moment was when I panicked. I was selfish and thought about myself. I lied to my fiancé. I told him that he was intoxicated and I was not. I told him that he roped me, but I never had the strength or courage to do anything about it. I made up a lie on the spot about continuing to be friends with him out of fear of what he could do. I also never told my fiancé in case he did something irrational, as my fiancé has anger problems. My fiancé listened to me in shock. He left the house for a few minutes. A few minutes is all it took for him to come back and sit down to talk to me. We talked and he told me he believed me. I sighed in relief in my head. He told me that he understands legal action is not something we can take right now and he promised not to get violent. He also asked me if I still want to go ahead with the wedding, to which I replied I did. He asked me if I was sure and I told him I was. There and then I uninvited my former guy best friend to my wedding. I typed up a very brief, yet quite polite message. It said, "Hey, I'm sorry that you mistook my friendship for something more. The wedding is going to happen, and it'd be best if you didn't attend. It would be best if you never contacted me again. What happened a year ago was not something I wanted, it's something you chose to do despite my wishes. Goodbye." I wanted to make it clear that it was me who wanted him to not come. He read the message and left it on read for a while. I honestly started getting pretty anxious over it and my fiancé asked if I wanted to block him. I did very quickly, hoping he would not have time to contact my fiancé and tell his side of the story. However, just before I could block him, he sent me a nasty message. He called me a liar for leading him on for over a decade, he blamed me for accusing him and told me I would not get away with it, and that he hoped my fiancé left me and that we were infertile. It was just horrible thing after horrible thing and I started crying. Fiancé took my phone into the other room while I sobbed. After reading that message, I really wasn't so sad that my friend wouldn't be attending anymore. And our wedding effing rocked. My fiancé and I are happy together, though he is worried about my trauma. I think that's a secret I'll take to the grave.